First up, we're in Pike County Justice Court in Pike, Mississippi. Sidney Newsom, who's handcuffed and shackled, is in front of Southern District Judge Aubrey Rhymes. He's facing a domestic violence charge. After reviewing some paperwork and doing a little dance, he appears relatively calm. But when the transport officer taps on the table, Newsom seems to get agitated. Then his mother and brother enter the courtroom. He steps towards them briefly, but the officer motions him back in line again. Judge Rhymes then signals the family members to take seats. Newsom signs the paperwork, and the officer then hands the documents to Judge Rhymes. The defendant, however, doesn't seem ready to rest his case. An irate Newsom argues with the judge, who quickly motions for his removal from court. But Newsom decides against exiting just yet. As the officer tries to direct him back toward the door, Newsom loses it. First, he grabs a stack of papers from the desk and throws them at the judge. As papers fly everywhere, two court clerks rush away from the commotion. Newsom's mother reacts. The transport officer wrestles the defendant to the ground for a few moments, but he overpowers her. He then grabs a telephone and hurls it at the judge, toppling a computer monitor in the process. Judge Rhymes has seen enough and decides to take control. As Newsom throws more paper at him, Judge Rhymes single-handedly pins him onto the desk. The defendant's brother then gets involved as well, though it's unclear whether he's trying to assist the judge. Eventually, 4 more transport officials stream into the court. One of them finally leads Newsom out of the room. 2 others tackle Newsom's brother and put him in handcuffs. Judge Rhymes returns to the bench, leans back in his chair while one court clerk puts the computer monitor back in place and another straightens up the scattered paper. As the defendant's brother is removed from the court, Rhymes returns to business. The brother was not charged with any crime. Sidney Newsom received an additional charge of contempt of court and served 48 hours in jail. We're in the Marion County Superior Court in Indiana for the case of Tim Stark. Stark is the owner of Wildlife in Need, a nonprofit animal refuge home to more than 200 exotic animals, including monkeys, kangaroos, and yes, tigers. Much like the title character in Tiger King, Tim Stark does not appear to have much of a filter, as seen in this news interview.
Reporters suck. I guess that's the simplest way to put that. It's nobody's business how I do things. Nobody's business.
Problem is, the U.S. Department of Agriculture made it their business and issued Stark more than 100 citations, which he claims were unwarranted.
You want me to abide by regulations or laws? Then give me those regulations and laws and shut the up.
Stark has been accused of misappropriating funds from a nonprofit and using it for personal expense, as well as for abusing animals. Reported incidents included Stark allegedly punching a sloth in the face and repeatedly kicking a tiger cub who had bitten him. The allegations were made by the Indiana Attorney General as part of an injunction to shut down the animal preserve. Cameras aren't allowed inside the courtroom, but following the hearing, a group of Stark's former employees and volunteers, some of whom reported the allegations against him, speak with the news media.
There's a lot of pacing, a lot of swearing, a lot of derogatory remarks against the ex-employees, ex-volunteers.
The group's t-shirts are emblazoned with the names of animals they claim died on Stark's watch. And as they continue the interview, their boss exits the courtroom behind them. Now, he could just walk on by without saying a word, but that doesn't really seem like Tim Stark's style.
You bunch of mother. Watch what happens when I get you on the stand. Let's see what happens. Let's see every one of you. You ready? Are you ready for that?
and I'm going to show that you're a lying little that you are. You wanted to go against me? I can talk however the I want. You know, courtroom now, I can talk to them however the hell I want. It's English language, my.
Today, it's Stark being escorted out. But a month later, it would be his animals who were taken away. A judge ultimately ruled to dissolve Stark's Wildlife in Need organization, ordered the animals be homed at accredited zoos and sanctuaries. Stark, however, claims the fight is not over.
They could poke this bear so many times. The bear's tired of being poked. The bear's going to stand up and fight back.
Why did you have all those drugs? And do you have a death wish?
We're in Mount Clemens, Michigan for a sentencing hearing. 24-year-old Nicholas Kasperzak has pleaded guilty to possession of a controlled substance, delivery of marijuana, and maintaining a drug house.
Nicholas, you're 24 years old. What's going on with your life?
Your Honor, I just trying to be helpful.
What exactly is the problem that's causing you to go and get these drugs and use them?
When I got into a motorcycle accident, my ankle, and the doctors prescribed it to me, and then it gets out of hand.
So the doctors prescribed cocaine?
That is veteran Judge Mary Shanowski, a.k.a. Scary Mary.
What am I going to do with you? You going to become my problem child?
Kasperzak is facing a recommended sentence of 60 days in jail, but his lawyer's requesting probation and substance abuse help instead.
What he really wants, Judge, is really good, potentially even inpatient treatment.
What do you want to do with your life?
I have a kid on the way, and I just want to get my life on straight.
Well, what kind of father are you going to be if you're going to be using drugs?
Not a good one.
It appears that Judge Shanowski is leaning away from issuing jail time.
I do want to help you. I need for you to tell me you really want to do it.
I really do.
Prosecution, however, feels differently.
You think I can believe him, Madam Prosecutor?
No, I'm concerned because 88 pills of ecstasy he had in his possession, 2.9 grams of cocaine, and 1.57 grams of marijuana. If those are all for personal use.
She's tough. A lot tougher than me, and I've got a bad reputation for being tough.
Clearly wrestling to make a decision, the judge asks a simple, point-blank question.
Are you going to run out and get drugs as soon as you're released?
No, Your Honor.
Because you know I'm going to find out. And then I'm going to be disappointed. And then I'm going to yell at you. And then I'm going to go home and think about you.
Kasperzak is looking at 60 days in jail, or perhaps a second chance.
Since of the court, you be put on probation for a period of 3 years.
Scary Mary grants Kasperzak his request for probation, but as a condition, he has to attend daily NA meetings for 3 months and undergo a court-ordered substance abuse evaluation.
I'll see you in 2 months, and I want to hear good things. All right. Don't disappoint me.
Next, we head to Clear, Oklahoma, where County Judge Cassie McCoy appears slumped over in her car in a store parking lot. It's around 4 p.m. on Super Bowl Sunday. Officer Nathaniel Turman arrives on the scene and approaches Judge McCoy's vehicle. She seems to be having some window issues.
This one. You feeling okay? What are you on? Somebody called in and said you drove through the ditch. Looked like you're about half asleep in the driver's seat when I come up here.
Well, that wasn't me, because we're on our way to my boarding house.
You have ID? Okay. You been drinking or anything today? Okay. All right, why don't you come back to my car and talk to me back here?
Judge McCoy follows Turman to his vehicle, where he begins checking the judge's information through his computer.
You're on something. What have you taken today?
I didn't take anything.
Are you a drinker?
No.
When's the last time you been in trouble for alcohol?
I've never had that issue.
Never?
No.
Okay, so January or July of 2008, you didn't get in trouble for alcohol-related offense or anything?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So can you be honest now?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you been drinking today?
Yes.
Okay. How much you been drinking today?
I drank champagne.
How much you had to drink today?
Full bottle of champagne.
A full bottle? Sit tight.
Turman goes to speak with his partner.
You recognize
Who is she?
district judge?
She's a drinking.
She's a judge.
Full bottle of champagne.
Don't let her position influence what needs to be done. If you need to administer tests, administer tests.
After a few minutes, Officer Turman returns to the car and gets right down to it.
You have a drinking problem? You do? You understand what kind of position this puts me in? I think you very well understand it because of what you do for a living. I had no clue who you were. My partner knows who you are.
What you do is I want you to do the right thing.
The officers ask Judge McCoy to exit the car and complete a field sobriety test.
Without turning your head, I want you to follow my finger with your eyes and your eyes only, okay? Do you understand? Okay.
Yep.
Don't turn your head. Keep your head straight.
Sorry.
The test actually causes her to stumble.
Turn around, put your hands behind your back.
Officer Turman's seen enough.
No. You're under... Don't make this more difficult than it already is. You're under arrest for actual physical control of a motor vehicle while you're under the influence of alcohol.
Sorry.
Just sit right here, okay? You're going to jail.
The judge is taken back to the station where she agrees to take a breathalyzer test. McCoy's blood alcohol level comes back at 0.35, which is 4 times the legal limit. Because officers didn't witness her actually driving, she's booked on a misdemeanor charge of being in control of a vehicle while intoxicated. The judge is later released on bond and issued a statement saying she's embarrassed by the incident and intends to get professional help. Judge McCoy is also temporarily relieved of her duties. Next, we go to Louisville, Kentucky, for a virtual hearing that quickly turns confrontational. The defendant is Curtis Burns. He's been charged with misdemeanor criminal mischief. The judge in the case is Julie Kalin. The prosecution's represented by Emily Weatherholt and Tracy Davis. The defense attorney is Shamika O'Neill, but she's not currently on the call, which has the defendant concerned.
Is my attorney?
I can't. Your attorney's on the line.
Yes.
There she is, although she's connected only by voice. At issue is a plea deal O'Neill wants her client to accept. It would require Burns to receive mental health treatment, which he has not agreed to. His attorney tries to clarify things, even though she's interrupting the judge, who doesn't want the defendant to accept a deal he doesn't understand.
He's saying that he and Miss O'Neill did. Please let me.
Your Honor, I just want to reiterate.
Miss O'Neill, please do not interrupt me. He is saying that they did not discuss that. So would you like some time to speak with your client, Miss O'Neill?
No, ma'am, I wouldn't. He's bipolar schizophrenic, ma'am. So he says a lot of things. He agreed to this deal. He has it in his hand. So the question becomes, Kurt, do you want to take it or not? You're dealing with somebody that's not operating at full capacity, ma'am.
What I'm saying is your client is saying he did not understand it that way. It's fine. It is fine that he has mental illness, but that doesn't mean that we can go through with a plea if he doesn't understand what he's agreeing to.
Finally, Burns decides to speak for himself.
Man, I don't even have no records of me having mental illness. She just put that diagnosis on me. I don't have no mental illness.
Judge Kalin looks frustrated, but apparently it's O'Neill who's had enough.
Your Honor, it's my motion at this time to withdraw from this case.
No, ma'am, that motion's denied.
Why? Because he won't accept the plea, and he's going contrary. He won't accept the, ma'am, I've been to the jail 5 times. He's flooding the toilets. He's causing disturbances. He's fighting. He's been beat up. He's calling me 12 times a day.
You are disparaging your client to this court.
Okay, well, the bottom line is to take the deal. If he's not going to do that, then I'm withdrawing from this case. I've already been to the jail 5 times, Your Honor, to talk to him.
The withdrawal is denied.
Frustrated with the case and getting denied by the judge, O'Neill makes one final move.
I bet I don't appear again. Goodbye.
Yikes! The defense attorney just removed herself from the call and the case.
I bet I don't appear again. Goodbye.
Yes, Assistant County Attorney Emily Weatherholt removes her mask to show just how stunned she is.
Okay, I'd like to make a contempt motion for Miss O'Neill. I will enter an order compelling her appearance in front of this court tomorrow.
Okay,
Mr. Burns, there is no excuse for an attorney to behave that way. Wow, never in my life. Okay, I'll be writing an order if anyone needs me.
Judge Kalin did file the contempt order, and O'Neill was removed as Burns' attorney. Though she served her jail time, she was ordered to pay a fine of $500, which she later appealed.
Vincent Belezos.
We're in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where Judge John Hurley is conducting bond hearings with inmates held in Broward County.
Mr. Belezos, hi, so you're charged with domestic violence, battery, and false imprisonment. And you're currently on parole right now. You have a violation of parole.
The inmate facing those charges is 49-year-old Vincent Belezos. According to his arrest report, an officer found Belezos choking his roommate in their apartment when responding to a domestic disturbance call. But when asked about the alleged assault, Belezos tries to play it down.
Yeah, my roommate was an alcoholic, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to cry over spilled milk.
Sir, are you currently employed, Mr. Belezos?
What do you think?
I wouldn't venture to guess. The reason you're on parole is you went to prison for failing to register as a career criminal. Now, State, do you have any prayers on this gentleman?
Yes, Your Honor. 2010, he was convicted of carrying a concealed weapon by a felon, resisting without violence, and loitering and prowling. Sentenced the same, a little over 27 and a half months, but he was
everybody knows they carry a gun.
Classified as a habitual offender on that case.
Everybody knows they carry a gun.
And the self-proclaimed outlaw's rap sheet doesn't end there.
2007, possession of cocaine with a VOP. 98, felony battery, great bodily harm, 5-year state prison. 99, possession of cocaine, 16 and a half months. 93, grand theft auto with a VOP, 3.5 years.
It's a criminal record that speaks for itself, but apparently Belezos doesn't want to discuss it.
I mean, my background is totally messed up and everything. Can you tell a little parrot to be quiet?
After taking a jab at the state's attorney, Belezos then moves forward to drop some of his legal expertise, telling the judge there's no way he's eligible for bond.
Judge, no disrespect. I got a VOP. They're not going to let me go.
That was about my next thing.
In this case, a VOP is violation of parole, and it seems Belezos has learned a thing or two about the law during his countless court appearances, because he's right, he won't be going home.
Count 3, violation of parole, going to be held without bond.
Though Belezos was initially held, the battery and false imprisonment charges were eventually dropped. That's it for this edition of Court Cam. I'm Dan Abrams. Thanks for watching. Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Abrams, and this is Court Cam.
You ready to take your plea?
Killing all your people. I hope you die in prison as well.
On behalf of me and my family, hope you burn in hell.
We're in Greenville, South Carolina for the arraignment of Jarquez Cooper. The 22-year-old was charged with 2 counts of murder, 7 counts of attempted murder, and 1 count possession of a firearm following a deadly shootout inside a nightclub that police believe was gang-related. Surveillance video from that night, released during a police press conference, shows Cooper and others entering the club through a through a back door where no security was present. Later, when a fight breaks out near the stage, Cooper can be seen pulling out a handgun and, moments later, firing multiple shots. As the club descends into chaos, 5 other patrons are caught on camera producing guns, but it's believed only one person other than Cooper actually fires a shot. Amid the panic, police arrive and work to clear the building.
Hey, we gotta get inside and clear that.
In the aftermath, 8 people were left wounded. 23-year-old Michaela Bell and 51-year-old security guard Clarence Johnson were killed. Images taken from the security cameras were made public and used to help track Cooper to Atlanta, Georgia, where he was arrested. 3 other suspects wanted in connection with the shooting remained at large. Now, just days after the incident, with emotions still running high, members of the victims' families are allowed to speak before the judge rules on Cooper's bond.
On behalf of me and my family, I hope you burn in hell. I hope you burn in hell, and everybody like. She took my daughter, man. I hope you burn in hell, man. I just want to know why. Why? Why throw your life away? Why hurt everybody? Why leave me with 2 kids? With no mama? I'ma stand strong. First, I seek justice. Second, I seek war. I stand firm.
The judge stands firm too, denying bond on all charges. Cooper chooses not to speak, but as he signs his paperwork, crying in the gallery is interrupted by the father of Michaela Bell's children.
See, they didn't deserve this. Bell didn't deserve this. We don't deserve this.
Jarquez Cooper is being held without bond while he awaits trial. For our next story, we head into the archives to Wood County, Ohio, for the sentencing of Sarah Bunch. It's 2009. The 21-year-old pled guilty to voluntary manslaughter and arson in the death of her 60-year-old neighbor, Robert Porter. According to Bunch, Porter invited her to his home to take semi-nude photos for money, and then became aggressive and tried to sexually assault her. Bunch claimed she shot Porter twice in self-defense and left. 30 minutes later, she returned and set fire to his house. Prosecutors did not believe her story, and to avoid a potential life sentence if found guilty at trial, she accepted a plea deal. Before Judge Alan Mayberry issues his sentence, the victim's daughter, Tina Porter, offers a few words about her father. He also had 8 grandchildren.
The most vivid memory his grandchildren have of him is him laying dead in a casket over a senseless, and to them, confusing act of violence.
Next, it's Bunch's turn to speak, in hopes of getting a minimal sentence.
I really was a good person. I had 2 jobs. You know, I was custody of my kid. I was doing what I needed to do.
If the judge is moved by Bunch's tears, he doesn't show it. Perhaps because of one specific question about the crime he just can't figure out.
I'm having a hard time understand how someone's coming towards you and the second shot is in the back of their head. Can you explain that to me?
Bunch doesn't have an answer other than that Porter turned his head. And with that, the judge announces his sentence. 10 years for voluntary manslaughter, 18 months for arson, and 18 more months for tampering with evidence, for a total of 13 years in prison. It is clearly not the sentence Bunch was hoping for.
13 years?
Heavy recess.
An emotional Bunch is removed from the courtroom to begin her 13-year sentence. Her first chance for parole was in the fall of 2021, and it was denied. Next, we head to the Hillsborough County Courthouse in Tampa, Florida. Inmate Robert Bridges, who's been in custody for 5 months, is sitting inside the Hillsborough Circuit Court for a hearing in a criminal case where he faces burglary and grand theft charges. Sergeant Tracy Wallace, an 18-year veteran, along with 2 Hillsborough County deputies, are in the courtroom in full uniform, providing courtroom security. Bridges, secured with leg shackles as well as handcuffed in front with an attached waist chain, is sitting at the end of the inmate bench, very close to Sergeant Wallace. Bridges pays close attention to Wallace as she walks out. As she returns, he remains focused on the sergeant. And once she gets close enough, Bridges jumps to his feet and makes his move, trying to grab the deputy's holstered sidearm. Bridges stands up and grabs for the deputy's gun with both hands. But Wallace turns to her right and blocks Bridges' grasp. The 2 other uniformed deputies immediately spring into action, pushing Bridges back into his seat, or picking him up and carrying him out of the courtroom. As for the original charges, he pled no contest and served just over 3 years in prison. As a result of the incident, Bridges was charged with battery on a law enforcement officer and depriving an officer of means of protection.
Be seated, folks.
Next, we go to the Pike County Courthouse in Waverly, Ohio, for the sentencing of Charlie Reeder. The former Pike County Sheriff pleaded guilty to 2 counts of theft in office and tampering with evidence. The veteran lawman allegedly stole roughly $5,000 that had been confiscated in other cases. According to police, he used the money to support a gambling problem. Reeder was originally looking at 18 different charges, but to get that number knocked down to 5, he changed his plea to guilty. He appears before Judge Patricia Cosgrove.
So at this time, we'll proceed with sentencing.
For his crimes, Reeder's looking at a maximum sentence of 8 years in prison. The emotional defendant pleads with the judge for the minimum sentence: community service.
Your Honor, I stand here before you today to take accountability for my actions. As a sheriff of Ohio, I shed, I shed bad light on the office of sheriff. For this, I am terribly sorry. If I could go back and change it, I would 1,000,000 times.
There's another box of Kleenex.
For this is not who I am. I have and I now pray that the court will find mercy on me. And I beg the court, if they see fit, to grant me community control. I am a good person. Made bad decisions and choices.
After expressing remorse for his crimes, Reeder begs the judge to consider the impact a prison sentence would have on his family.
I'm asking all this so that I have the opportunity to watch my son graduate from high school, my daughter who's getting married in October, so that I can be there for her, and my wife, so that I can be a husband that I haven't been in 25 years due to my career. Your Honor, please do not send me to prison. I have roamed, but I'm not ruined. I still have a lot of good left in me. I thank you for your time.
When he's finished, the judge has one thing to ask the defendant.
The big question I have, and is on everyone's mind, I'm assuming, is, I guess, why did you take the money?
I took the money, and mind you, this does not excuse it, but from drug dealers that took it from parents of very poor people in this county.
According to Reeder, he spent much of that money support charities in the community. But there's also evidence he built up a sizable gambling debt. And the judge is not feeling sympathetic.
You've been in law enforcement for 24 years. We all choose our profession, and we have to conduct ourselves with integrity so that everyone trusts us. It cannot be underestimated the damage that you have caused to the citizens of Pike County, to law enforcement who every day get up, face the same sort of stresses that you do. They go all home at night, they get up in the morning. The sacrifices that these men and women make, I think you made a mockery of.
Reeder is sentenced to a total of 6.5 years. But because some of those counts will run concurrently, meaning at the same time, Reeder will only actually have to serve 3 years in prison. He's also barred from holding public office in Ohio and can no longer serve as a peace officer.
I remember waiting for a knife to go in me or a bullet to hit me.
Next, we're in Waco, Texas, for the trial of 35-year-old Jake Carrizal, president of the Dallas chapter of the Banditos Outlaw Motorcycle Gang. Carrizal is charged with a host of crimes, including directing the activities of a criminal street gang. He's the first of more than 150 defendants set to go to trial for their alleged involvement in a deadly biker shootout. 2 years earlier, outside a suburban Waco shopping mall, nearly 200 bikers assembled at the Twin Peaks Sports Bar for a scheduled meeting. But after a scuffle broke out in the parking lot between rival clubs, the Banditos and the Cossacks, the scene erupted into chaos. First with fists flying, then bullets. In the aftermath, more than 300 weapons would be recovered from the scene. And the biker brawl and shootout would ultimately leave 9 bikers dead and 20 others wounded. More than 170 people were arrested in the deadliest biker shootout in U.S. history. At trial, the prosecution argued Jake Carrizal and his Banditos were to blame for instigating the violence. But on the stand, Carrizal claims it was actually their rivals, the Cossacks, who ambushed him soon after he parked his bike.
I remember they ripped my shield off my helmet. And I remember they had my brass knuckles in there trying to get inside my face shield. They were trying to hit inside there. And I was just kicking and punching, and I remember waiting for a knife to go in me or a bullet to hit me. I was waiting on that. I knew I was fighting, and I knew it was coming.
The state continued to argue Carrizal and the Banditos were upset over a territorial issue. But Carrizal's lawyer, Casey Gautreaux, argued that prosecutors withheld evidence that would have undermined that entire theory and asked mid-trial that the charges be dismissed.
I have been tendered audio recordings with a witness prior to Twin Peaks, Your Honor, that contains information that is exculpatory and that seriously undermines the state's theory of prosecution. Excuse me. Your Honor, how many times has the state sponsored testimony that the conflict at Twin Peaks was about a Texas bottom rocker? 3 separate times. And he's saying that there was no conflict over the Texas rocker. What effect does that have on the state's theory all the way up until now? That is wholly inconsistent with the state's theory of prosecution.
What relief are you asking for?
I would like the court to dismiss the charges for prosecutorial misconduct, for willfully hiding and sitting on information that completely guts their case, Judge.
But after the judge rejected the motion,
then the defense's motion to dismiss is denied at this time.
Gautreaux told prosecutors exactly what she thought of them.
It's criminal. It's criminal and it's unethical. It's criminal.
Jake Carrizal's case would ultimately end in a mistrial after jurors were unable to reach a unanimous verdict. But before a second trial could begin, the case took a stunning turn. A newly elected district attorney dismissed all charges, including murder against Karazal, as well as the charges against 24 of the original 154 bikers named in the indictment. Next, we're in Columbus, Ohio, for the trial of Wendell Hollingsworth. The 43-year-old is facing 13 charges, including aggravated robbery, felonious assault, and kidnapping. All the charges stem from an alleged 5-day crime spree that included carjacking, multiple armed robberies. Hollingsworth's rampage ultimately ended inside a Catholic church after he was subdued by a group of parishioners as he tried to rob their Sunday Mass at gunpoint. Now, on the first day of trial, without the jury present, Hollingsworth, who's been deemed a security risk after spitting on his attorney and other previous adverse, is wheeled in, appearing calm and collected. At least for a moment. As Hollingsworth is rolled into the courtroom, he appears to look at his court-appointed lawyer, Scott Weissman, before shifting his weight and kicking the attorney in the legs. As deputies rush in to help, Weissman can be seen holding onto his client's foot before taking another kick. In the background, a deputy deploys his taser. But amid the struggle, it appears his fellow deputy is caught in the leg by the tethered electrodes. After getting to his feet, the deputy detaches the tether and eventually Hollingsworth is subdued. After a brief recess, Hollingsworth is brought back into the courtroom, this time fully restrained and wearing a spit mask. But as his attorney tries to move forward with the hearing,
the maximum sentence that he could receive is 104 years.
He continues to disrupt.
Okay, well, give it to me now. It's unfair. Give it to me. Give me 250 years right now. It's unfair.
Continuing his rant, Hollingsworth demands that both the judge and his attorney be removed from the case based on what he claims is religious prejudice.
Thank you once again for telling me how to do my job. What's the deal?
You ain't gonna treat me fair. I'm gonna treat me fair. And you a Catholic. I'm charged with robbing the Catholic Church. I'm gonna get a fair trial. This is false.
Wendell Hollingsworth would choose to remain in a holding cell during the rest of his trial. He was ultimately found guilty on all 13 counts and was given the maximum sentence, 93 years in prison. That's it for this edition of Court Cam. I'm Dan Abrams. Thanks for watching.